Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to another episode of Justice for All Now. I'm your host, Hena Zuberi. In the year 837 AD, Romans captured the Muslim cities of Zibitara and Malaita, where they mutilated a number of men and pulled out their eyes and cut off their noses. Fleeing refugees made their way to Samarra, where they spoke of the horror of the attack. A Muslim woman was taken captive and abused. She called out the name of the Khalifa, Wa Mu'tasima. Help, O Mu'tasim. When the news reached Mu'tasim, he said, Labbaik, I'm here on your call. His armies entered Amuriya, and the Muslim prisoners including the woman, were freed. No one is listening to Muslim women today. Our Uyghur sisters have borne the brunt of this genocide by the Chinese Communist Party. They're experiencing enslavement, torture, forced sterilization, separation from their husbands and children. They have been forced to get married to non-Muslims by force. They are under a system of organized rape in the camps and in their homes. They're calling to us. Will we say labbaik? This is the question that I want to ask all my audience, my Muslim audience. And for those of you who are listening in from all over North America, from Canada, USA, Mexico, listen to the stories of Uyghur women who have escaped these concentration camps. This week, I'll be interviewing 3 Uyghur women who have been former concentration camp survivors. They are courageous. They are speaking up. They're reliving their horror and their trauma. My today's guest is Gulbahar Jelilova. She's an ethnic Uyghur who is from Kazakhstan. She's not a Chinese citizen. She's a Kazakh citizen. And she was incarcerated in CCP concentration camps. And yes, these are concentration camps. Listen to her story, learn from her, and you'll see why we're calling them concentration camps, not re-education camps, not internment camps. My interpreter today will be Sirwi Hossein. She's the team lead for the Save Uyghur campaign and an ethnic Uyghur herself from East Turkestan. Assalamu alaikum, Gulbahar. Assalamu alaikum, Sirwi.
Assalamu alaikum, Sister Hena.
Assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum assalam.
Alhamdulillah.
Assalamu alaikum, Gulbahar. Rahmat kelganingizga.
I know Gulbahar has been interviewed by many media channels. I don't know if she's been interviewed by a Muslim TV channel, by Muslimas who can share her pain. So I'm ever grateful for her to be on the show today and really, really admire her courage.
Sister Hena sizga dedi, biz sizga intayin rahmat aytamiz. Bugun o'sha kelib, shunchalik cho'ng jasorat bilan yana bir qitim biz bilan o'tirib, o'zingizning shu Xitoyninki lagerlarda, yig'ilish lagerlarida ko'rgan qo'rqinchli kunlaringizni, shu kechirmishlaringizni biz bilan o'rtoqlashmoqchi bo'lganingiz uchun biz shu hammalarga odillik degan shu guruhimizga hammalar sizga rahmat aytamiz.
Gulbahar, you're not a Chinese citizen. Why were you arrested and detained?
Gulbaharada siz bu Xitoyning grajdani emas. Siz Qozog'istonlik bir Uyg'ur. Siz nima uchun sizni Xitoylar shu yig'ilish lageriga tashladi? Shu ishlar qanday yuz bergan?
Men ticaret qilganimga 20 yil bo'lgan, 96-yildan tortib boshlagan. Şu axırkı etim 2017'de 5-ayınki 22'si şu otelden bir stüdyo tutsam keyenmeydi. Şu otelden ip gitti, tutuklandı şu Namaz kılınma, namaz ötüdüm o dep şu ben Müslüman boğan üçün, Uyghur boğan üçün tuttu. Başka hiç kandak menen günahım yok. Eşetki kırındaşlarımızın mühendisinin günahı hiç kimin günahı yok. Bir günah yatıdı.
Yeah, she had been doing business just back and forth with East Turkestan for about 20 years. And in 2017, May 22nd, she went back to East Turkestan one more time to do her business. But they detained her just because she looks like Uyghur and her ethnic identity is Uyghur and she's Muslim. This is what she thinks.
Mashallah. And we hear that she's 55 years old, and he spent a year in the concentration camps, 3 months and 10 days, in an underground prison cell crowded with 40 other women. Sirwi, I'd like to ask her how if she can. She was arrested from her hotel room. Can she tell us what happened next?
Gulbaharada Sister Hena şuna bir sualını sordu. Siz 55 yaşga kiribsiz. Siz Xitoyninki yig'ilish lagerda 1 yil 3 oy 10 kun aşağıda yetibsiz. Unda bo'lgandan keyin mushu to'g'riliq bizga bir so'zlab bergan bo'lsangiz. Bu ishlar qandoq sizga ashuna yuz berdi?
Aşağı lagerga düşkenden keyin hemimizde 5 yıl yaşadı. 1 yıl 3 ay 10 gün yürüdüm. Kutumdaki kişiler yaşmadı. Bir gündeki aşağıdaki kızlar bilen deyişettik. Bir günümüz bizge 1 yıl okşaş görünüp gidetti. O Xitoyniki kılan zulümleri, kılan tacavuzları bir gün okşamaydı. Günde her xil şekillerde apırdım. Lagerdan lager, kamerdan kamer yötkeydi. Bir-birisini tonmusun, bir-birisini diye kılan dep sendilerdi dimmisun de.
Men müşeyici bir tercüme qilib beraymi? Bo'lmasa unutib qolg'udakman. So after she was detained and she was thrown into one of those camps, she was forced to sit all day long in the cell, and her feet were shackled. And she said that with inmate sisters, they felt like this 1 day is equal to 1 year. It's so hard for them to stand off a day and then they are moving her and other inmates from cell to cells from one camp to the other.
Mm. And so for our audience so you guys understand what was happening in these camps, they have a contraption called a tiger chair, where they sit prisoners down with approximately 50 kilos, about almost 100 pounds of chains over their bodies. And they're made to sit in these tiger chairs, which is a method of torture to extract testimony from them. And so Gulbahar has experienced that from what we're learning about today. Reading her, how long was, so let's describe, if she could give us a description of what the cells looked like, how many people were inside the cells, and what was the daily routine like for her?
Yeah, Sister Hena, and I would like to tell you one thing. So I interrupted her in our first question because so that I don't forget what she said. So yeah, let her continue what she would like to say on the first one, and then let her describe a typical 1 day time in the cell. Gulbarada abay deganlaringizningki keynini yana azroq deb beramsiz. Anniki men Hena so'ragan ikkinchi savolni dey. Sizning gapingizni bo'lib o'tib qoldim. Kechiring.
Ben yem kirgen vaxtıda evir kengini şu vaqtda aşa yem tut ayalla bir gün bolgan badысы doktorxanda mene de bilmeydi şu aşa minden düştü de plaş lagerga kirip taşıldı. Taşılgan vaqtda süt aktı. Süt ekmede bir darı berdi, süt toxtap kaldı. Ben dedim ben içimde oydum bir günlük balının nim günası var. Nimiş bu anısını ekip anısı bilen balısını nimiş arı etudu de şu vaqtda. Bek qattiq içim gelip ketip şu yürek kesel bolup doktorxonaga ashla o'zlari apadi.
We are, Sister Gulbahar is still continuing to answer your first question, Sister Hannah. So she said that one thing that really struck her deep is on the day that she entered to the camp, she saw that one woman, nursing woman actually, and her milk was kind of coming out.
Mhm.
She was so sad because it's the risk of that baby, and she's so sad that why the women has to be separated with the little babies, and while they're still nursing, and why they have to be there. This is one thing that always just haunting her.
And this is very important to note because when children are being on a mass scale being separated from their families and being sent out to orphanages and state schools where with dormitories, um, a lot of times the people that we are seeing the ages that we're being told about, they're above 4, but Gulbahar, you're saying has witnessed nursing mothers inside, so that means their babies were snatched away from them as well.
Yes. Yeah, the one thing that I forgot in my translation is that they gave her unknown drug, and then immediately her meal just was stopped.
Oh, subhanallah.
So
Thank you so
yeah.
much for that.
Arada Sister Hannah deydi şu atanla balladın ağırlık ballani ilgında bir şu Xitoy hökumətininki özü başqurduğan aşındaq yəslilərə, başlanğıç məktəblərə solubətdi o uyğu kiləməydi o balla atanlarını. Bizning ağlığımız şu. Hazır bugün sizning ağlığınızdan əməliyyatda balısını imitib atqan analarning Uyghur analarning şu xil balını imit yo'q o'qidim ayrılıb qalğanını anlab intayin ko'nglimiz yerim bo'ldi. Yana davomlashtirsangiz bo'ldi. Agar birinchi savolga agar shu kunlarni tasvirlab shu kampdagi lagerdagi kunlaringizni tasvirlab olsangiz.
Albatta u yoqda qizlarni odatlari keladi, qog'oz bermaydi. Shu haftada bir qatam ishga doridan berdi. Bir 10 kunda bir ukol saldı, kan aldı. Nima ukol salsizlar, nimaga dori demaymiz, paydo turinglar deb labada o'zlari kirmaydi, labada ashtaq deydi, paydo turinglar deydi, paydo turmiz, kichikdan to'shba ashaqni qo'limizni chiqarib beramiz, o'zlarimiz suyulib ichimiz. Keyin endi tushandik, qizlarni ayab to'xtab qoldi. Ham qo'saq ochgan nima sezmadi. Dahyada o sement yada yatımız aşı etkenlikleri tutsak kır çık getiydi kızıl aşı hiç mi sezmedik aşı darla ukolla hemisi mi aşı üylerini esledip ben emdi balırımını tukallam esledip üylerini isimiz hiç mi kemedi boş biz özümüz ben bize mesleğim şu kadar ben de tuğulup üskendekli bu falan bişimiz kuruktu aşı darla bilen ukolla bilen aşı kıvet.
Take your time. I know this is very difficult. Yeah. Take your time.
Sister Gulbahar says they broadcast on the radio and just every 6 or 10 days, and they have to come to a place that has a like little window, and they throw out their hand, and then they give them the unknown drugs, and after they eat it, and the women's period, their period was gone, and then they don't know pain. They sit on their sides in a tiny room and on the no mattress, but they don't even feel the pain. And then there's no sanitizing supplies in the camp for women, and we can imagine that how hard it can be. At all, they don't supply sanitizing items to those inmates, not at all.
This is why this is a frequent question that I have been bringing up is why is this not considered a women's rights issue? Where are our women's rights activists globally protesting for these women who have, been incarcerated, subhanallah. And as you so and she herself has been sick ever since she's come out from reading her past interviews. Can she tell us what sort of she believes she was slow poisoned? Gulbahar, you believe you were slow poisoned. Can you share what you mean by that?
Gulbahar, siz burunqiyliq ziyoratlaringizda deyishingizcha sizni ular meni ular zaharlayapti degan shunday bir gapni qilib ekansiz. Mushu gapni degan vaqtida siz nimalarni o'ylab ashta degandingiz, bizga bir dab bergan bo'lsangiz bo'pti. Shu dorilarni shu kampda dorilarni ishlatganga qaratgandingiz ku deyman. Ular meni zaharladi.
Ha, o dorilarni, sularni ichgan sularimiz sapla dardan yasaganlıqı içsaqma, sunun demi yo'qsa dara. Yegan tamoqlarimiz tamoqning demi. Qosaq bilmaymiz, sapla.
Yeah, she says they don't, because of the effect of those unknown drugs, they even don't feel that they are starving. They don't feel that they are in pain. And that even the waters that they are given doesn't taste like pure water. And they suspect that there's something in it, because after they not even we don't even have to mention about the drugs that they are given on just routinely basis. The water that they were given on daily basis, it has something in it. I remember Sister Hena on one interview of Sister Kalbenur, the former camp teacher. She said one time while she was trying to drink water from the one bucket somewhere in the camp because she was teaching, and the hui, we call it tungan in Uyghur, the person must be really caring for her, that no, you cannot drink this. They are for the students in there, but not for you. This is exactly just a similar feeling that she has with the camp teacher, the former camp teacher, Miss Kalbanur, because she says even the water doesn't taste like water. It has something in it because we don't feel the pain. Yes, she said earlier, while she was answering the question earlier, she says, she felt like as if she was born inside the camp.
She was born inside the camp.
Yeah, she feels like.
Subhanallah. So you describe a room, a small room with lots of people in there. Can you did you stay enough time in one place to develop relationships with other women in the camps? Can you share some of their stories as well?
Gulbaharada ma Hena'nınki bir suali deyişçe avu. Siz aşı kampda turgan vaqtingizda aşı bir uyning ichida turgan qizlar bilan bir mundaq munosabatni bir taraqqiy qildig'idek bir-biringizga bo'lgan bir mundaq bir hissiyat paydo bo'lg'idek bir uzoqda tura olamsizlar odatda. Bir gap qiladigan fursat bo'lamdi o'sha yerda. O'zinglarni ko'rgan, so'roq qilg'ili achib ketganda ko'rgan ishlarni deyishgidek ashta bir fursatlar bo'lamdi. Shu to'g'riliq bir so'zlab bergan bo'lsangiz bo'pti.
Tamam, bo'ladi. Kechda 7dan keyin boshqalar ketgan vaqtda Xitoycha naqshi 5 gimin naqshini, marsh naqshini o'rganib oladi. Shu vaqtda hamda bilmaganlarga qalam berib, yezib berib, men ruscha yezib berib, past ovozda aytinglar deydi. Shu vaqtda parang salmiz, parang salgan vaqtda shu vaqtda hamda qizlar kimlar so'roq qildi, qanday so'roq qildi deb hammani deyishib shu vaqtda shu kızlar urup tırmakları julvetken ukollarını on barmağı ukol sağan kızlarını gördüm. Benim 3 ay oldu diye vaqt birinci ketim sorakta 3 aygacha aşağıda şu aşağı gördüm aş kızlarını.
Tırnaklarını uzvetken
o kızlarını tırnaklarını julvetken. Tırnaklarını uzvetip barmağını Тимахларын жылветіп, кейін осы тимахның ішіге жығын саған 10 қыз. Ошылдың кетіп, сөріп әкір қойды, сорағын кейін. Кейін о қызға бәнді тұмысын деді. Кетсі біз бәнді тұрда емес, о қызын бәнді тұмысын деді. Kız 2 gün geçi hoşluğu gelmedi ki nasıl o kızında karsak timaklar jılıqlıq ya onun isiyat işim kılamasını işim delememiz karsak mı yani yasak aştaq nurgun kızlarını ben gördüm aş toraktan keyin basqınçılık uçragan kızlarını gördüm aşna kızlarını keşten sorattık 2 gün 3 gün geçi hoşluğu gelmedi kız kelgen vaqtda biz sorattık qandaq nim qildi desek aşağı kız basqınçılık kıldı mı diye vaqtda kız jığlap nomusdan jığlap ya edelemesi gözde yaş aktı. Zincirler bilen su içip zincirler bilen urup bu kızların ısımları hepsi yazılık meninde. Aşında soraktan keyin aştaqlatı qavaqtı ben hem de ularni anlap bakmagan keyin aşağı vatanga kirsem undaqlarni anlap bakmaptı ben ki jığılgan vaqtda kızlar aşağı kichik kızlar taselli beretdi hada jığılma bularga bu Xitaylar göz yaşını gözetmeli hada başta yerlerine yürüp ketsek şehir bulup gitmişsin yaşam işte kızlar düşecektik keşlerde.
So really, it must be really painful for Sister Gulbahar to go through all of those tragic memories with us today. She said she said like routinely every single day, like around 7 p.m., 5 p.m., they have to sing Chinese songs. And they broadcast that they announced that you guys have to sing it, and they sing it. And while they're singing, and sometimes there are opportunities for them to talk while everybody is singing to talk with each other.
Mm.
And one time she saw one Uyghur sister, her during one time, her fingers, Sister Gulbahar saw one of the inmates' all fingers, like fingernails, were pulled out. And then with needle, they punched needles to torture her. And usually they pull out girls and then they don't come back 1 or 2 days. One time she asked such inmate gone for 2 days and came back to the cell. She asked what happened, and they suspect that the Chinese government did rape those girls, that specific inmate, and she couldn't tell because out of shame and out of sadness and all those things, she couldn't tell, burst into tears. Those times are most like very, very sad moments for her, still in her memories. Because if she just gives me a lot of information at one time, it's sometimes a little bit harder for me to remember. Yeah.
Okay, if you'd like to ask her if she'd like to add.
Men yatkan Uyghur lagerda şu ölüm cezası begen lagerlar, işki lagerda yattım, işki
Ben şöyle bir devalay unutmalı again. Sister Gulbahar says the cell, the camp that she was staying in there is one of the heavy kind of, the most strict kind of camp, the ones that were sentenced to death, such kinds of people, the inmates were there.
Okay.
And devamlaştırın Gülbahar'da.
O Xitaylar cezası begen bana özüm benim pasportumda Kazak pasportumda ivilip özlerinin 0. numarını yasap açtık begen bana ölüm cezası verip açtık yandı konsullikler Xitay Kazakistan adamı yok dediler meni aşı vatanın adamındaki lakıp açtık.
Siz değil mi? Ölüm cezası verip yabancılık kesip ettim o sizden.
Hamısı ölüm cezası meni 0. numar berdi. Aşını yatkı bilip aldıp aş 0. numar berdi. 0. o kimlik koy, Xitayning kimligini.
Yeah, they confiscated. They took her passport, and they say, and then they gave her a fake Chinese ID card, and said, "You're a Chinese citizen. You have to stay here." And then they forced her to stay in the camp. No matter how much she denied the fact that she's Kazakhstan citizen, and they didn't agree. And she said that, again, she emphasized this is the camp that is one of the heaviest kind, just most strict kind of just people usually just stay there very long time or sentenced to death.
I want to ask you a question.
Yo'qolib ketadi. 14 kichik qizlar 14 yoshdan 80 yoshga qizlar, 15 yosh, 16 yosh, 20 yoshli qizlar ketisi ismini atapla ochiq ketdi, qaytib kirmagan nurg'un qizlar. Nega vaqtda shu bosqinchilikqa, tajovuzga men o'zim men tajovuzga uchradim. Shu ashta qilgan ekan, u o'lim jazosi berganlarga jonni silib o'tirayotgan odamlar bilan birga yotdim. Ashta odamlarni ko'rdim, ashta qizlar bilan birga.
Yeah, there are the female Uyghurs in the camp that where she was staying from 14 years old to 80 years old. From 14 years old to 80 years old. They pull out little girls, 14, 15 years old. And then you know that what happens to those girls when they're pulled out in the midnight. They just call somebody, come out right now. And then they don't come back overnight. And also, Sister Gulbahar Jelilova said she was raped by Chinese police in there, like other girls, inmates, very little inmates, just very young girls, 14, 15. I can't imagine, Sister Hena. I have girls, and it's hard for me.
I can imagine,
to
sir.
imagine.
This is, reading about it but hearing it from somebody is a totally different experience. And for all of those who especially in our Muslim viewers in Muslim countries who have not been given this information, perhaps of what China's deals with their governments is, it is imperative on you to share this testimony. These are our Muslim sisters in faith who are calling out to us. I wanted to ask you, because I want to make sure I didn't miss this. Was Sister Gulbahar herself sexually violated as well, or what sort of, if she's open to sharing it, what was her experience during this time, aside from? So we've talked about being drugged, we've talked about the tiger chair. What can she share of what other aspects of the day were like for her?
Yeah. Gülbahara'da Sister Hana'nın deyişçidir, mən sizin sözlərinizdə dedim. Ulayatda sizgi mu aşında təcavüzçülük elib badi. Amdi muşu şu kadar
So'rab tatılganda ishkiya bor. Birisi yer ostida, u yoqda kamera bor, 4 ta kamera ko'rinib turdi. Agar imzo atildi deyishim qilsak, nimga imzo atmay deyman. Hammamiz deymiz, degan vaqtda imzo atmish talaga chiqdi, talada kamera yo'q ya, ikkinchi qavatda baqiramsiz, nim qilsangiz, hech kim anglamaydi. Men birinchi qatim kirgan vaqtda talaga chiqqan vaqtda 404 degan nurga kirdim. İkinci qavatda kamera yo'q yerda, yo'g'on bir eg'iz uy. Bulungda bir karavat turdi, yotgan turdi, so'roq qildi. Ashaqda nima desa qiladi. Men
Sister Hanaga deyishdan burun sizdan bir so'rab olay. Ostınqı qavatda so'roq qildi, shundaqmi? Ostınqı qavatda so'roq qildi. Cho'ng binoma u.
So'roq qildi, kamera bor. Bek cho'ng bino. Bek cho'ng kamera, bek chiq.
U bek cho'ng bino. Ostınqı qavatda so'roq qildi. Ikkinchi qavatda nima degandingiz?
Yo'q, ikkinchi qavat emas, talaga chiqdi. Talaga vaqtda qarxalti kiydirib chiqdi. Talaga chiqqan vaqtda bir muncha ma'miz. Menib ikkinchi qavatga chiqirdi, chiqqan vaqtda ashaqda ayrim bir bino turdi. Ayrimlar. Bu yoqda kamera yo'q yerda uzun koridor ketgan. Aşağıda sorak kılıyordu, avazlarını alayım. Ben de çıktım, avaz aldım. Bir
Ha,
kameraga aytılıyordu, aşağıda kamera yok yedi. Bir aşağıda
ha,
karavat durdu, yotkallar durdu. Hemen kılıyordu.
if they are interrogated, the interrogated facility is they live in a big building, the several buildings. The underneath the basement is a kind of interrogation, and there's camera. She says, and then when they are called to go outside, and they make them wear the black sack on on their heads, and then they take them out to another building, and I hope I grasped the gist of what she said. And then when she went into that building, um, there are rooms, and they said that they interrogate them in those in another building, but actually there are beds, the mattress, and then they call them out for interrogation. But Sister Gulbahar says they do whatever they want to.
Mm. And the cameras are watching 24/7. I recently the Chinese government has come out against these camp survivors. They're accusing them of being puppets, of being they've even accused them of having affairs, being promiscuous, just to disqualify what they're saying. Has she heard about these statements, and what does she have to say in response?
Gulbaharada mısh yaqinma biz anlayımızla qancha mushundaq shu kampdan qutulib chiqqandan keyin shuni so'zlayotgan bo'lsanglarmi bu Xitoy hukumatining qilayotganlarini Uyg'urlarga bu qirg'inchilikni, lekin bular davomli yo'q bu Gulbahar Jelilova yolg'a aytyotidi, Qalbi Nur Sidiq yolg'a aytyotidi, Tursunay Ziyodulla yolg'a aytyotidi degandek ashta gaplar borda. Shu siz mushundaq shu Xitoy hukumatining mushunday inkor sizlarniki gap so'zlaringlarni inkor qilishiga bir qanday qaraysiz?
Albatta o'zini oqlash uchun Xitoy yag'aydi. Men ya u lagerlarda bo'lsa, u lagerning ismini qayerdan bilaman. Ayaqda 67 qizniki ash lagerda beguna yotgan qizlarning ismlarini yez qo'ydim, ularni qayerdan degan doktorxonada o'lim jazosi bergan, o'qa jonni sevib o'ltirayotgan ashtim. U Jansoyan degan doktorxonalarni qayerdan bilaman.
She said that if what she says is not true, how she comes to know the names all of those detention facilities, and how she knows the names of the girls who were tortured in there. Earlier, she also said, and she wrote down those girls' names and just some of the informations after she went out from the camp. So she says, if whatever I say is a lie, how do I know the name of your detention centers? How do I know all of those names? And even she was taken to the hospital one time. And how do I know that the name of those hospitals that you brought me in there while I became sick, while I was interrogated?
Yeah, this is absolutely, and the incredible audacity of the Chinese government to attack these women's personal characters, calling them inferior women, just to decrease the and try to get the spotlight away from their own actions and onto these women. When we want to I really like, it's really difficult because you don't want to push too hard, and respect her privacy as well, whatever she wants to share. So this is something that I'd like to give her in the next few minutes to really share what she wants to share with the world. It's taken a lot of courage for her to be able, she could have easily gone into silence and not share her story. One, what has made her want to share her story, and another is why, what if she has, this is her platform, no censorship, what would she like to share with the world?
Hananing sizdan so'raydigan bu savoli bo'lsa, intayin aniqi. Hana biladigan, biz hammamiz bilamiz, sizga intayin tas keladi o'sha ko'rganlarni bizga chiqib, sirtqi dunyoga oshkorlash. Shu siz bizga qandoq bir kechirmishlaringizni shu kamti ko'rgan, qandoq bir narsani o'zingizga qattiq ta'sir qilgan. Hozir deyishni xohlasangiz, hozir sizga shu vaqtni biz berishni xohlaymiz. Qandoq bir har qanday bir kechirmishni yoki dunyoga siz nimalarni deyishni xohlaysiz, shu ko'rganlaringizni bizga so'zlab bergan bo'lsangiz. Sizga cho'qim tas keldi Gulbaharada.
Men 1 minut tuanib qolay, nima çok az.
Ma'qul. Sister Hena, she would like to leave for a minute.
Let's give her a minute, the producers, and this is something that, just as we're putting these testimonies together to present to other lawmakers and leadership around the world, it's so imperative that their voices are heard, that they're unfiltered. And so thank you so much, Sylvie. I know it's hard for you to imagine, just it's hard enough reading about it, but to hear it from someone who's actually been in there. As you listen to her, what are some of the thoughts that are coming in your mind?
A lot, actually. It's hard for me to even concentrate on your questions and on the narrative that she's telling me, because she says one sentence and it strikes me really hard and gives me the tremble and the shakiness, and then it's so hard for me to concentrate on rest of her words, because one word, deep sadness and agony for my people in East Turkestan. I am so sad. At this moment, I know that my nephew was locked up in one of the prison camps. Actually, he was sentenced with some year of imprisonment, and there's no way for me to identify how long. And he's living in there because of me. And I would like to say sometimes just, if I didn't transfer money from US to his account, and it wouldn't happen to him. And sometimes this kind of thought tortures me. And sometimes then I tell myself, it is Chinese government who is locking up your nephew. It's not the ordinary money transfer thing. And at this moment, and I can imagine that his feet were shackled, his hands were chained, because this is something that Miss Gulbahar, the sister Gulbahar, shared, that her hands were chained and there was like her feet were shackled. Just all the time, that image really tortures me. And the way they sit on their sides in that small tiny cell that released from the Chinese medias, that tiny cells, and in that cell there's even the restroom is in there, that you can see actually the restroom, there's no barrier. No barrier, and you can see whatever the other people are doing. And then I just imagine that my nephew was experiencing the same issue, but he's man, he's male, but his experience must be different than these inmates that she described. But it's still I can't help relating her experience to my nephew. And that my husband, his son, my brother-in-law, was also sentenced with 17 years, imagine, just for going to Turkey. So I imagine what kind of work they are forced to do in those cells, what kind of torture and humiliation that they went through. Only they knew. We can only imagine here, just listening to her painful experiences and relate our relate the experiences of our brothers and sisters in there to her experience, and relate all those her experience to all the people who has the same ethnicity, who has the same facial features and the same blood and the same Islamic faith with me, just relating to it, her experience to entire people in there. This is what.
She's back. Let's have her speak, inshallah.
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Gulbarada yaxshi qaytib keldingiz. Nimalarni o'ylaganimni paranglashib hozir sister Hena mendan so'radi. Sen nimalarni o'ylading Gulbahar hamshirimiz shu gapni qilayotgan vaqtida deb shuna degan. O'zimniki tuqqanlarimni o'yladim deb javob berdim. Endi Gulbaharada siz abay sizdan bir savol so'rgandik. Siz shu qandaq bir kechirmishlaringizni, nimalarni o'ylaganingizni yoki nimalarni ko'rganingizni, qandaq bir o'zingiz o'sha dunyo, sirtdagi dunyo bilan shu o'rtoqlashib gap berishni xohlaydigan shu kechirmishlaringizni hozir deb bersangiz bo'ldi bizga.
Tamam, aşağılarda yapılan kızlar, küçük kızlar, ayollar hepsi derdi. Gulbaharada eğer siz meşeden ölmeyi sağ çıksanız, siz bizni unutup kalmang deb, siz amanet bekimde derdi, keşlerde derdi, unutup kalmang, sizge amanet meşedki zulümlerini anlatın. Biz deydi, uyga chiqsak ham biz olamiz, bizni bu yerda mumkin emas, yana o'sha lagerga solaydi. Siz erkin davlat tug'andan keyin siz anlatamizga bilsin ular deb bek omonat qilib ketgan. Shu uyga kelibman, Qozog'istonga kelibman, axlanding deb qo'yib bergan keyin 20 kun uyda bo'lib ko'zimga bog'larim yoshim tuqqanlarim ko'rinmadi. Şu kızlarını beksiyahımdım, kızların avazlarını diyen amanetleri kulağımda ketmedi. Şu jürüm gündeki Türkiye'ye geldim. Türkiye'de şu jürüm gündeki durum. Ben ölümden korkmayı, ben şeyde korkmayı, eşitki kızlar bana ölümden korkmayı ben şundan kuşkuya hazır çeşmedim. Ağızları kulağımda kendine açtı, göz aldımda kızlar.
She says, well,
demek ki bana sahip çıktım. Birinchi Xitoyning meni boykot qilsin, Xitoyning meni hargiz olmasin, Xitoyning meni olgan har inson bilsin, o'sha Uyg'urning qiyni bor.
She says,
o'sha mustaqillarda jiqroq desin, o'sha Xitoy
Mishlarni bir davolayman, unutib qolmay bo'lmasa. She was living with young girls, as she described earlier, very, very young girls. They always told her that you're Kazakhstan citizen and one day you will be released. We know that, but we will be staying here, or even we go out, we are not in the free world, and they're going to take us back to these prison cells. But you will be able to go back to Kazakhstan, and when you go back to Kazakhstan or to the free world, please tell us our pains. Please tell us what are our experiences here, and this is our amanah to you, and you have to tell this. So after she was released, and she stayed in Kazakhstan for about 20 days, but she couldn't sleep. The voices of those girls were echoing in her ears, and she felt the obligation to speak out, and she went to Turkey, even though it was not very safe to live in Turkey and just share all those experiences in the camp with the world is putting her in danger, but she still just made the world know what kind of camps they are. and what those young girls are going through in those camps. So she would like to tell the world that please boycott any kind of item that was produced by China, because there's the blood of Uyghur people in there.
That's a very, very powerful message. Very powerful, subhanAllah. And for you to act on that, Amana. As we look at this crisis, and I really want to ask you, how did you maintain your faith, and how are these people, men and women, who are being held, when they're not allowed to say God's name, when they are tortured and punished for saying Allah? How can you share with us how people are managing to maintain their faith internally, how you managed to survive this?
Um, Gulbaharada Hena'nın sizga qo'ygan savoli bo'lsa, amdi mushu Aşu vatanimizda endi bu Xitoylar Alloh degan ismni digil qo'ymayotidi endi dinimizni butunlay cheklabdi. Alloh deb salsa cho'qim jazolanadigan holatda shu ichki lagerlarning ichidimi ham tinchidimi. Siz shuna bir azoblanib, bular sizni qiynab turmida, xo'rlab qilgan vaqtlarda siz yana shu o'zingizning e'tiqodini qanday qilib saqlab qoldingiz, qanday qilib davomlashtirdingiz. Endi qizlar shu chog'da nimalarni o'yladi, o'zining e'tiqodiga bog'lab turib ashlar o'zining e'tiqodini yana qanday saqlab qoldi shu xo'rliqlarning ichida. Shu to'g'riliq bir so'zlab bergan bo'lsangiz deydi.
Yen kirgan vaqtda men bir qizniki kirib bir minutdan tishimizni yuvishni berdi. Tishimizni yuvgan vaqtda ular kirgan qizlarning rizinkasini yeb oldim. Rizinka, chashqadan hammasini. Shu checha oldiga tushib ketdi, mashtaqlik qilib checha jig'aydib, mandaq qilib sadaq saldim deb qizni qarang'i so'laverdi.
Nima
Bu
qildinglar?
yoqda yana debdiki bizda labada deb turadi sizlarni deydi. Ha?
Chichini mundaq keyniga qayris.
Labada o'zlari saqchilar kirmaydi, ashaqda mikrofon bor.
Davomlashtiravering. Yeah. Let me translate this part. She might continue later. And they say every time they are given certain minutes to tishini cho'tkalash dedingizmi? Yuzini yuvish, tishini cho'tkalash dedingiz, ha? Men aniq anglayolmay.
O'zimiz aytgan 1 minut berdi. O'zimiz ham yuvishda. Shu vaqtda
Yuzini
checha tushib ketdi-ku, mana bu qiplanqi chechini yig'mada bunaqa edi, sen chechingni.
Yeah, they were not, they collected their hair bands and all kinds of stuff in the cells. So every day they are given just very little time, just 1 or 2 minutes for personal cleaning. And while she saw that one young girl, while she's washing her face, her hair was down, come forwards, and she would like to push it back. And then they might be washing at that time, and that they pulled her out for interrogation.
For just having her hair covering
just pushing the hair back forward. Gulbarada ovozingiz aniq kelmayotidi, men anglayolmadim.
And can you ask her if the prisoner...
Endi keldimi?
Ha, endi keldi. Davomlashtiring Gulbarada.
Saqchilar vaqirab detdi, tishni oldiga kelib saqchilar kelib detdi. Anglatamsiz?
Ha.
Alo.
Anglayapman.
Saqchilar detdi, sizlarni deydi, meninglarni sizlarni deydi. Meninglarni biz ko'ramiz kamerada, shuning uchun diqqat qilinglar. Jiq so'zlamanglar, Uyg'ur so'zlamanglar dedi. Biz ko'rmaymiz sizlarni kamerada. Bejindagi boshlarni ko'rdi deb eslatdi. Degan vaqtda o'sha qizlar agar bir yerga uzoq qarab qolsa, o'sha kameradan ko'rib, kamera yugurib kelib saqchilar dedi. Sen bir yerga jiq qarding, sen namoz qilding deb aşk kızı yana qarab jazalaydı. Bir yagi saqlashda qiladi. Agar buni yerimizdagi o'tagan qizlar buni qarab qalsak, sen degi salom berding deb yana aşk qizini jazalaydi. Jazalatdan ko'rib. Bu yoq qarashga bo'lmaydi. Tikka jiq uzoq qarsangiz bo'lmaydi. Yerga qarsangiz bo'lmaydi. Hammani kameradan ko'rib o'tirdi.
They say that even we can detect a kind of dot on your face. We're not only watching you through this camera. The officials in Beijing, the capital city of China, the higher officials are watching you too. So you cannot talk to each other, and of course you're not allowed to each other. And they said that you cannot talk to each other. And even what she detects is you can't even stare at one direction very long. If they do that, they says you are praying. You are praying. If they just would like to move their body to the side and looking at like that, you are giving salam. You are giving while you are doing salat. And this even this movement inside the cells just puts them in risk of, oh, you are praying inside. So
Subhanallah. So even the actions of just even if you're not doing anything, and this we heard. I'd like to let her speak because I think it's important.
Tamamlaştırın Gulbahar'da.
Ular bizni nomusimizni tushirib, yana o kunda bir kirib, ahaqlar bilan ayol soqchilarga elektron qaltaklarga bizni qip yalang'och qilib, beshimizni tutib, 3 qaytam o'tag'izib turg'izdi. Ashada kichik bir qiz, yengirgan qiz, 18 yosh qiz cho'nglarni ko'rib, zat atib, mashtaqni qo'tadi, elektron shok bilan bir urib, yashqizib, kiyimni qip yalang'och qilib, o'tag'izdi 3 qaytam. Bilmayman nima uchun nomus tushirishgan.
She says just because they want to degrade the Uyghur women. Gulbahar'da ular qaralik qilamdi. Qancha kunlarda bir oyda bir etdimmi bu xil tekshirishni?
Ya 10 kunda her 10 kunda bir qiladi. Her 10 kunda bir.
Ha,
hep yalang'och qilib, soqchilar asaqlarmi bor. Qurollar bilan turadi, ishlar.
Oh, she says every 10 days, just for degrading them, they call them in, and then both men and the women, both policemen and police, like whatever, I don't know, just those people, or those guards, yes, those cell guards, with weapon. They are armed. And the men are present, and the men guards and the women guards are present. They call them in and then make them take off all their clothes, and then they make them put their hands on their heads like this, make them sit down and stand up for 3 times. They have to repeat this action 3 times while being naked. And then one time, one little girl, she was really ashamed, and she's embarrassed, she's like, maybe she didn't perform the action well because she's so embarrassed, and then they beat her with electric baton. So this is what she saw. She says, why they do it? It's like I cannot comprehend. They locked them in, and why they still want to do it in every 10 days, make them sit down and stand up. If they do it one time before admitting them into the cell, this is their routine for checkup, something. Okay. It's not okay, of course, but this is but no, I asked her before I stopped my answer and went back to her. I asked her just every 10 days. Every 10 days. And she felt like they just would like to degrade us and humiliate us. So, that I can imagine that you become so worthless.
And there is this Muslim concept for those listeners who might not understand of Izzah. Izzah is the honor of a Muslim woman. And it is not how a lot of times Orientalist or Western media talks about honor killings. The honor of a Muslim woman is on her. It is not. It doesn't belong to her men. It doesn't belong to anybody else. It is her honor, and to be and when we cover our bodies, this is our direct relationship with God. We are covering, we're wearing hijab for Allah, for God. And so when we are stripped of that, and stripped of our clothes, this government truly understands Muslims. It understands what gets to us, what would humiliate us. And they're doing this to humiliate Muslim women, to humiliate Uyghur women. And this is, a lot of times it isn't about just, I'm sure there are secular Uyghur women who are going through this as well. And they're maybe Christian or other Uyghur women, maybe a smaller number, who are going through this as well. But this is something that is a unique oppression of Muslim Uyghur women of Muslim descent. This is very important for people who are watching this to understand this. Please go ahead, Suri.
Yeah, they just would like to destroy their izzah.
Mhm.
Yeah, Sister Hena anamı diginde muşunda kılış arkalık ben şuna dedim dastlab akirga vaqtida bir qitim tekshirsa ha desak u har 10 kunda ashtaq qilishga maqsadi siz shunday yaxshi ifodalab berdingiz. Bular bizni shu bir xil sharafsiz his qildirish uchun, xo'rlash uchun ashunda qiladi har 10 kunda deb. Ham davomlashtirib deydigan so'zlaringizni davomlashtiraveraman. Bir manda tarjima qilib, siz so'zlab tarjima qilish jarayonida bir xil uzilish bo'ladi ekan. Lekin yana yaxshi so'zlab berdingiz. Rahmat.
Aşı lager kamerının içi her bir kamerda başka lager kirgen okşaş aşı otasak o buna eyne görünüp durdu. Oturup tuğalım. Hemimiz o boruna karıp oturumuz. Otagan turgalan nomusumuz ne? Bir ketim aşı bir minut soğusuda madak çakınıla deyip soğusuda aşı kıp bir yalan aşı bolsak aşı kapıp durumuz o boruna.
They say that the bathroom they have no privacy and they can see everything through the window, and while even the taking shower and they are seeing them, so there's no any privacy exist in their lives in the camps.
How can she talk about her how she was able to get out? I know that's a question that a lot of people are asking. How did she manage to escape? And is there any chance of getting any others out? I know aside from family activism, has she noticed anything that works?
Yeah, could you please just make it short a little bit?
First, let's ask her, how did she escape?
Okay. Gulbaharada siz shu kampdan qanday qilib qutulib chiqdingiz? Shunchalik qo'rqinchli bu kamp, bu lager. Siz ham qanday qilib qutulib chiqdingiz? Bir chiqamanmi debmi o'ylagan bo'lganmidingiz shu chog'da? Shu taskunlarni beshingizda o'tkazayotganda.
Ya, aşağıdaki kızlar değişiyorduk bir yerde bir çivin uçup kıramaydığın yer. Dep uyaktan neşkim sağ çıkmaydı. Nimishga deseniz uyakta bo'lib ketgan, aşağıda boşudan ketib ölüp qalgan, urib o'ltagan qizlarni şey aşağı biz ko'rdik. Hammamiz ko'rdik. Shuning uchun biz deyishayotdik, bu yerda biz shuncha narsani beshiqyapmiz, ko'ryapmiz. Bu Xitoy hargiz bizni bu yerdan tirik qo'yib qo'ymaydi deb. Vaqtim o'zimiz bizning vaqtimiz borki o'lik o'tadik. Xalq kedirib açık etsa biz öldük deb hesaplatqanı chiqib ketmagan xalq degan keyin qaytib bu kameraga kirmaymiz deb o'limga tayyor bo'lib o'tagan. Biroq mening bolalarim, tuqqanlarim endi men ishinib terrorist meni tutgan terrorist deb uydagilar xat aytibdi terrorist deb biz Anlaşılmaz biz uyuşkan teröriste katnışıyor bilmedi terör ekanliginde şu xat yazışni başladı бүткүл министрларга чоң башлыкларга Rossiyaga ishki xat Birleşmiş Devletler'e yazgandan keyin meni qo'yib bergan vaqtda o'rqilab ketgan bizni chechimizga huquqimiz yo'q deb hammamizniki taqir bo'lib tushirayotgan vaqtda yana biz qizlar bir-birimizga qarab yana dattoq biz yana chiroyli ekanmiz Rossiyaga ishki tushunmasdan shundoq chechimiz tushirib Başta bolsaqma şundaq chiroyli deb tasirli bir kunlarimiz o'tdi. Aşıq uyga qo'yib bergan vaqtimda bir haftadek meni vaqti doktorxonada 3 kun vaqti vitaminlar berib, aslim kelgizib, o'rqilab ketgan badanlarim yoritdi. 3 kun yotoqqa qopirib, 3 kun yotoqda polislar yanimda bo'ldi, ashlar vaqti. Keyin oxirgi kuni bugun sen aeroplanga biz bilet aldık degan vaqtda chechimda qisqa chechimni qarg'i bo'ydi, makiyaj qildi, bo'lmasa o'zim o'sha o'lik chiroyli. Shu makiyajdan qilib nurg'un so'zladi Xitoylar hozirgacha xati bor qo'limda. Go'boniki sen uyga bergan vaqt tijoratdan qilaver. Biz seni qarshi olamiz. Sen shunday yaxshi emas ish berding bizga. Sen qachon bizni mashakkasan telefon qilsang bizni Go'boning telefoni ishlaydi 24 soat. Deb telefonni yezib berdik. Hozirgacha bor. Şunlar aslında ahırkı sözde bir dimde bir 20 dak saqchilar 10 necha saqchilar ahaqlar çoqlar dedi sen mush ko'rgan kunlarimizga desa qayerda bo'lsang biz seni o'ldiramiz. Sen uzan ko'rding ko'zing bilan qayerda biz Uyg'urlarni akeldik. Shuning uchun sen kelib o'lamiz. Eğer bo'lsang qayerda bo'lsang o'ldiramiz. Ölgün kelmese sen ticaretini qilib ketib yuraver biz seni qarshi olamiz, yordam qilamiz dedi. Tamam qilib qo'ydim. Uy ketgandan keyin albatta Uyghur bu kundan keyin meni chidamadim men dedim, yo'q demsam bo'lmaydi deb shu.
Ma'qul, men hozir bir tarjima qilib beray. Rahmat Gulbahor aka. While she was living in the cell, just numerous times she saw that girls were beaten to death, and somebody was fainted in front of her. Just this thing just repeatedly happened to her. Every time one of the inmates were called out, every time they put black sacks on their heads and then they called them out in that way. So the girls and they talk to each other like we should be prepared for death all the time. So they thought that they're gonna die in there, and they said to each other that even a fly cannot escape from this camp to the outside, so we cannot go out. This is what she talked with the other girls, and this is what she thought. But later on, with the help of her family members in there, writing to the government in Kazakhstan, and then connecting with the Chinese officials in there, and writing to UN, all those advocacy, all those works and worked, and then they released her. And before they released her, her head was short. And she also said that while they were inside the cells, and then their hairs were gone, and all of their heads were shaved, hairless. They became hairless, and still they look at each other and comfort each other. See, we still look beautiful. We have no hairs, and we still look beautiful. And so she before she even go out, she became really sick. They took him to the hospital, and then they did some treatments for about 3 days. They had to do it because her condition was bad. And then they even dyed her hair. like in order to make her look good when she meets with her relatives in Kazakhstan. And more than 10 of the Chinese policemen, and they were present at the time, and they said to her sister Gulbahar that you see, you're a businesswoman. Now you stayed here for a while. You did pretty well with us. You cooperated with our work. So now you're free to go and do your business. Anytime you would like to come back here, you can come back and do business with us. As if like nothing happened to Sister Gulbahar in there. And they say that we are present everywhere. We can do anything to you. We can even kill you. So they kind of implying that you had better keep your mouth shut.
And this is something that if we think about right now, she's currently in France and she's still not safe, but she's still brave enough to come out and give this message to the world. Why would anybody, and this is what I want to say to the genocide deniers, why would anybody risk their freedom, risk their business, risk their family's life, and come on and testify to these atrocities if they were not speaking the truth? And this is absolutely terrifying to think that this is happening, and more energy needs to be spent on addressing genocide denial rather than to be working for the cause to get these people free. Subhanallah, and there's so much more that we can discuss. The fact that she saw people die in front of her, this is testimony that needs to be collected and shared with governments across the world, because this is not, why are people, if these are re-education camps, why are people dying in them? Subhanallah. Sirwi, as you spoke to her, I'd like her to continue because yeah, go ahead.
Ya Gülbahar'a da eğer davamlaştırıcı halsınız, yani davamlıq sözler bilseniz boldu. Sözünüz davamlaştırsanız
Bu
boldu.
Xitayla yağanda dese dedim. Bu ne? Gulbahar Jelilova falan Xitay yazıqlı. Xitay muşu xatni uyga ballarımga aytibdi. Terroristlarga yordam qildi degan.
Ha. Yeah, she says
Özleri yağan davatqını
yeah, Chinese government and told her relatives in Kazakhstan that she's terrorist. That's why she has to stay in the camp, and it's all written in Chinese. She says, I have all these documents that Chinese government gave to my relatives. It's written in Chinese. Yes, I saw it. You know that her first and the last name was changed. I told you before. That's how Chinese government does it, because their family names comes first. Our family names comes after our first name. So her name was switched, like Jelilova first and then Gulbahar. That's Chinese. Like I saw it in print in those papers. It's really smart of her to take out all those documents given by Chinese governments in the outer world. And she has all these solid proofs of how Chinese government persecute Uyghurs and what they have to go through in those camps. They're not the so-called re-education centers. I call them like torture camps.
Exactly.
Rape camps.
The guards that were inside your camps. I think she's trying to share something else as well.
Yeah.
Ministerlarga maştaq yazdı, konsulga. Konsuldakiler mana Қазақстанда Xitay konsulu var, aşna mana terroristlar qatnaşqan, şununla biz tekşiravatmız dep yazgan xatları qarang mana. Saplanımları var.
I even can see the Chinese the logos.
So these are the papers that were given to her family members on why she was being detained.
Yeah, the earlier one in Chinese that she showed that it was given to this is also, yes, this is also, some of them are written by her own relatives and her children to the Chinese consulate in Kazakhstan, and the others that she showed with logos, just like you said, it was given by Chinese consulate that we are detaining her because she's terrorist and she has problems in here. This is what they have replied in the paper to their relatives. This is what the Chinese government did, actually.
Wow. So I had a question for her, if she doesn't mind asking. Sister Gulbahar, I wanted to know the guards in the camp, were they all Han Chinese, or did you have Uyghur guards as well?
Gulbarada, Sister Hena sizden bir sual soraydı. Siz nemi yatqa vaqtınız, lagerda yatqa vaqtınızda hamma qaravulli Uyg'urmi yoki hamma qaravulli Xitoymi yoki ba'zi Uyg'urlardanmi bormi? Qaravullarning ko'pinchisi Xitoymi yo Uyg'ur qaravul? Lagerda yatqa vaqtınızda sizlarni muhofizat qilayotgan qaravullar borgu, soqchilar borgu. Aşlarning hammasi Xitoymi yo Uyg'urlarmi bormi ashlarning ichida bir yerim tirim?
Soqchilar.
Ha, soqchilar.
And the reason, Suri, I'm asking this is very important for people to realize that sometimes, let's see what her answer is, and then.
Aha. Gülbara'da anlamadık. Anlayamadık Gülbara'da. Avaz yok. Endi keldi.
Sap Xitaylar, başqalar hammasi Xitaylar. Halqa bizni tillaydiganlar sap Uyg'urlar. Uyg'urlar Xitaylarmi? Asası Xitaylar.
The majority of them are Han Chinese, and there are some Uyghurs too. Abay bir gap ne dediniz? Sizni tillaydiganlar kimlar? Ay Gülbara'da. Ko'pinchisi bularniki, shu soqchilarniki hammasi Xitoy. Ana Uyg'urlarmi bor, ha? Uyg'urlarmi qiynamdi o'sha yerda Uyg'urlarni?
Bor Uyg'urlarmi?
Uyg'ur soqchilarmi qatnashdi shu hamma ishlarga, shundaqmi?
I think we might be having some audio.
She said that she's not hearing us. I think the connection isn't very good. But she says there are Uyghur police too, and then they attend everything in there. It's another type of giving them more pain in there.
True. There too, and then there's also the classification to divide the people to the good Uyghurs and the bad Uyghurs. And if she can hear us, I'd like to ask her what sort of questions was she asked when they were interrogating her. This is.
Gulbarada ashlar sizni so'roq tartgan vaqtida qanday savollarni so'raydi lagerning ichida?
Qarqiydi, qo'limizga ko'za soldi, ochiqqan vaqtda shu imzo atlaydi, bir qog'ozni tashlaydi. Deydi. İmza at. Men dedim, men işim qilmadim. Ya bo'lmasa men albatta men dedim, ya advokat be, ya tarjimon qilib be, keyin men qo'l qo'ymayman. Men hozir nimga qo'l qo'ymayman, ishim qilsam desa, qo'l qo'ysal deydi. Sen bizga savol berma, biz sen nim desak, ashni qilsa deb qaltaklar bilan urdi. Oxirgi qitim shu qo'l qo'yma dedim, ular talog'a chiqdi. Talog'a chiqqan vaqtda shu vaqtda askirlik qildi.
Um, uh, she
Alo.
anladım. Ben hazır bir tercüme qilib beray, ya. Um, every time when she was called out and they put handcuffs on her hands, and then also when they interrogate, every time they force her to sign on a piece of paper, and she refused to sign on that paper throughout her period in the camp, and she told them that without a lawyer, without understanding what is written in the paper, I can't. There's no way for me to sign on the paper. But they forced her so many times to do so. And when she refused to do it, they beat her with electric baton. And this last time when she refused to sign on that paper, she was abused.
May Allah bless her. Um, for a Muslima to go through this and to come out, and mashallah, we see her sitting over here and advocating for the ones that she left behind. SubhanAllah, if she could share any lessons that she has learned on surviving and strength and faith, I'd really appreciate that.
Sister Hena dedi, endi bir musulmon bir qarinishimiz bo'lash sifatingiz bilan shunchalik bir jasorat bilan ashadin chiqib yana shu ishlarni dunyoga oldiryapsiz. Alloh sizga nurg'un yaxshiliklarni ato qilsin dedi. And then repeat your question, Sister Hena. I'm sorry.
If you could share any lessons.
Yes. So Gulbahar hada Sister Hena'nın so'rig'ini siz shu lagerdagi kechirmishlaringizdan qandaq bir narsani o'rgandingiz? Qandaq bir saboqlarni oldingiz? Shu bir musulmon ayol bo'lish sifatingiz bilan shunchalik bir azoblik kechirmishlarni beshingizdan kechirib, hamda siz ashyadan qandaq bir darslarni o'rgandingiz? Siz bizga nimalarni shu to'g'riliq bizga nimalarni deyishni, masalan, qandaq qilib kuchlik turib yanalam umidni yo'qotmay degandek ashuna hozir chiqib so'zlarni so'zlayapsiz. Shu o'zingiz shu qanday his qildingiz? Shuni bir deb bergan bo'lsangiz.
Ha, eşetke kızlardan, küçük kızlardan deyişetdaş kızlar, biz de meşeden güçlük, gayretlik bolaylık. Biz sırtkiler belki bizim atalarımız kırıp ketmese lagırga, ballarım bizni mi cık, bizni oyap, bizge kayetkenligimiz izlep bağımı yok mu da şula azap çekvatıdı. Bizden çık alatıdı. Şunun için biz meşet gayret duraylık, gayretlik bolaylık dep küçükten birisi jığlap aşağı soraktan keyin jığlap kirse bir-biri ro'yisini tushmayli deb shu yerdan men shu g'ayratlikni savrlikni ashaqdan o'rganib chiqdim. Shu qizlar hozircha shu qizlarni ivatmaga degan gaplarga shu har qatam so'z ishatdiq degan gaplar qo'limdan ketmaydi. Haqiqat bor deb o'ylayman. Bu Xitoyning qandaq yolg'onchi ekanligi hammasi bilsin. Ularga begunoh yotgan qarindoshlarimizni sayib chiqsin, shularga
The lesson that biggest lesson that she got from the camp, she learned from those young girls. They cry sometimes and then tell each other that we have to be strong in here and we have to survive because our family members outside, they are searching for us. They are waiting for us. They still wipe out each other's tears, and she says that those little girls are strong. The young girls are strong, and stay strong for the sake of your own family members at the outside.
Any message for the Uyghur community that she may have, um, and for the Muslim community that she would like to share.
Şu endi şu muhaciratki Uyg'urlarga, Uyg'ur qarindoshlarımizga deydigan so'zlaringiz, aniki şu musulmon qarindoshlarga, misol butun dunyodagi biz o'zimiz bilan o'xshash bir e'tiqoddagi qarindoshlarga deydigan so'zlaringiz bo'lsa, hozir desangiz bo'ladi.
Dünya qarindoshlarımga deydigan shu dastur aylik sayt chiqayli Uyg'ur qarindoshlarga ovozini chiqaramaydi. U yoqda Xitoylar chiqazmaydi. Sayt qilaylik, olmaydi. Duo qilaylik. Xat yozaylik. Bu yozgan medialarda Xitoyni rasvo qilaylik.
She would like to tell Uyghur brothers and sisters in diaspora that stand up against the Chinese government together and boycott Chinese products, of course, and make our voices heard and write letters to the government officials in different countries around the world. Make the world realize the dark side of the Chinese government. And the Müslüman qarindoshlarga so'zlaydigan so'zlaringiz bo'lsa, Gulbahar hada. And nurg'un shu biz bilan o'xshash islom dinini e'tiqod qiladigan nurg'un qarindoshlarimiz bizga ko'ngil bo'layotdi. Lekin bularning davlatlari bizga bizning maydonimizda turmayotdi-da. Xitoylar bilan nurg'un so'zlarni olib beryotdi, diplomatik munosabatlarda yaxshi qilmayotdi. Shularga masalan musulmon qarindoshlarimiz dunyoda nima deyishni xohlaysiz?
Ya hazır oralarda Gül dünya hazır itiraf kıvatıdı. Amerika, Kanada itiraf kıldı. Genotsit kıvatıdı da. Bırak Müslüman devletler sükütte yatıdı. O dünya bağında Allah'ın aldığı kandak cevap vermemiz. Qerimde eşaqda qırvatıdı, öldürüvatıdı, tacavuz kıvatıdı. Dep anlap durup, yani sükütte yitvatıdı. Bilmedim onunla kandak yani deş gerek. Kurbalık kıldım, ben ölümde korkmaya. Ama bu öldür adamız. Allah'ın aldı da, ben bulan demeye gelsem kadar bulurdum. Bu bütün dünyada kötü yitvadı. Ne için? Kimden korkudum? Pulga sitilip ketken, pulga Xitayning pullarga sitilip ketken. Ularga adam keragi yo'q. Shu butkul dunyodagi musulmonlarga deymanki, dastursin o'rindan ashadki begunoh yotgan qarindoshlarimga sahib chiqsin.
I forgot to say one thing while she was talking about her words, her message for Uyghur brothers and sisters, and she calls Uyghur brothers and sisters to pray also at the same time by doing those efforts. Of course, pray to Allah and ask Allah to help us, of course. And of course, she is sending a message right now. To the world, to our Muslim brothers and sisters who share the same Islamic belief. She said that while I am telling all these my experiences here, Islam, the countries like how can I say Muslim countries are staying silent, even though I am and other camp survivors are giving so much message to the world. They are staying silent, and she hopes that they broke their silence and break their ties break their silence and break their ties and stand with Uyghurs and help Uyghurs. And she said that I'm not in fear of death at all. Just Allah gives everyone one-time death. That's why I'm speaking out fearlessly here to answer Allah when I meet with Allah. So she said, if those countries don't stand with Uyghurs during this period of genocide, how can they answer to Allah in the Akhirah? Yeah, this is what she says.
Subhanallah. Jazakallah khair for your strength, for your courage, and for surviving and bringing this message out here. Allah was with you then. His angels brought you out, and subhanallah, I hope we can do our part of the amana in getting your message out to the rest of the world.
Sister Hena dedi Gulbarada, endi bizga omonat bo'ldi. Sizningki shu degan gap so'zlaringizni endi tashqi dunyodagi hammalarga jakalash endi bizning majburiyatimiz bo'ldi. Chunki bugun sizdan oldik dedi. Sizga yaxshi tilaklarni bildirdi Hena. Allah sizga shu ashadan bir sog' salomat qutulib chiqqaningizga Allah'ın yardımı bilen. Annen çıkıp şu sözlerini şuna dünyaya aşkarlap aşağı kögen bilgenlerimizden hemmini de Xitay hükümetinin kılmış etmişlerini işte iç taşlığanlıkımızda hemmisiyle rahmet dedi, hem minnettarlıkını bildirdi.
Subhanallah. It's to all of you who are watching, the least you can do is share her message. That's the least you can do. Make dua. Those of you who are of people of other faith, pray for Uyghur people. Pray for their release from these atrocious atrocities. When we get together and speak against atrocities, people combining together, a wave can spread through the world, and we cannot think that we are alone and that we are. I sometimes I was speaking to young Uyghur people last night, and I felt in their heart, a lot of sorrow and anguish that at the sort of people who are not supporting them, the people who claim to stand up for human rights, claim to stand up for women's rights, claim to really be those paragons of virtue or popularity, and they're silent. Their silence, your silence is so deafening, and it's crushing the hearts of the people who are being affected. And you will be held accountable. Any one of us who is a believer has to believe that we will be held accountable on the day of judgment for not doing our part in stopping this crisis now, in speaking up for the Uyghur people, and not just performative actions, not just putting up a flag on your Twitter handle or your Instagram handle or sharing, but really making a commitment. Spend 10 minutes a day, calling up your elected officials, talking to leadership in your own circle of influence, even if it's your neighbors, it's your college roommates, it is your auntie who lives in Tunisia or Morocco or Egypt. Talk to them about what is happening. This is Gulbahar was given an amana. An amana means a trust. The young women who she left behind in the camps, they gave her trust. She has, held up to her trust. She has given her amana, and she has spread the message to the world. Now it is our amana. Today, myself and Sister Sirwi, we have completed our amana by spreading this message to you. My brothers, our producers, my intern, Sister Mariam, Brother Abdul Wahid, Brother Wahid Mir, We have given our amana in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in front of God, that we are spreading the words of these sisters inside the camps. Now it is on to you. This is your amana now. What will you do with this amana? Join us tomorrow as we talk to another Uyghur camp survivor. Assalamu alaikum.